what's going on, everybody? Welcome to another episode of Can't Be Explained, hosted by yours truly. We have a lot to get into with this week 3 lineup, but before we do that, we got to get into week 2. Recap, talk about the betting, talk about some of the games that we like, starting with the Chargers. So let's go ahead and get right into it. But before you do, go ahead and like and comment on this post, as well as subscribe if you haven't already. So like I said, we'll jump right into the Chargers game here. So we had Chargers and Panthers. I actually went to the game with some people, and Chargers, we rolled over the Panthers 26-3. Panthers, like I said last week, it's not looking pretty for you guys. And I know I said that we were going to win, and I know they said we're going to cover the spread, and I expected us to, but it was just a terrible outing. I went to the game. I seen it firsthand for myself. It's just, bad run defense, bad passing defense, bad offensive line play, bad quarterback play, no run game, wide receivers non-existent. It's a lot going bad in Carolina. And I'm not sure who to place all the blame on. I don't know if it is the coaching staff. I know Bryce Young just was benched. I don't know if it's on him all the way. I don't think so. But I'm not sure if the defense is just not talented, or if they're not being coached right. I don't really know. But it's not a unit on that team that looks good. So I just don't know where they go from here. I mean, they benched Bryce Young. They're going to put Andy Dalton out there. I think that's more of a coaching move just because of their job security. Tepper is known to, hook a coach early. So I think, you go ahead and you put the veteran out there, because you can't really give Bryce the time to grow and learn, and especially behind that offensive line. And I think the longer you leave him out there, the more his confidence is going to get shattered. It's already in the toilet. I mean, he's overthrowing everything, underthrowing everything. They don't trust him to call a play to throw the ball beyond 5 yards. Everything was screens or drags or something like that, or either it was him getting out of pocket, nobody open downfield, him making terrible decisions, just taking sacks. So yeah, some of it is on him, but a lot of it is on the organization and the staff and the team that they've put together. So we'll see what Dalton can do with it. I'm not really impressed with the Dalton thing, but some of the fans at the game were chanting that we want Dalton, so you're going to get him. So we'll see. We'll talk about that in that Raiders game in a little bit as well. But on the other side of that, my team, my boys, Charger Nation, bolt up. We are 2-0 for the first time since 2012. Like, I was a junior in high school when that happened. So super, super happy about that. We got to go to Pittsburgh this week. I like our chances in that game as well. We'll talk about that one in a moment as well. But total domination. And I know people that don't watch the Chargers, they will say, I had some people telling me, hey, calm down. You just beat the Panthers. Hey, calm down. You just beat the Raiders, and stuff like that. And stuff that people say when you're happy about your team winning. But that's how I know people don't watch the Chargers, because if you ever watch the Chargers, that is a trap game for us. We go and play a team that we should obliterate, that we should just kill. They should not be in the game at all. And we either lose to them outright, or it's really close and we have to pull it out at the end when it never had any business being like that. So to see this team go out here with this coaching staff, this quarterback, this new run game, and go out here and play a team that we should beat, and we beat them by more than the spread, we more than double cover the spread, that is what I like to see as a fan. You don't want to go into these games, and if we would have went to Carolina, we played the Panthers, and they looked very good against us, and we didn't look that good, and we snuck out with a W, I wouldn't be that excited about it. But being that we came and we took care of a bad team like we were supposed to, that lets me know that we're not a bad team. I don't know how good we are yet. I think that we can end up being pretty good, but it lets me know that we are not a bad team. We go and we handle the bad teams. We play against a mediocre team like the Raiders, and we handled them as well. So I think, we have a bright future for this season. So if I want to be happy about that, let me be happy about that. Stop trying to rain on my parade, especially the people that were saying it. And it's like, Patriot fans and, Steeler fans, I guess, whatever. It's just people don't worry about how happy I am about my team. Worry about your team. So that's that. Is Charger Nation, is bolts up. We got Jim Harbaugh, JK out here setting records for us, running for 130 back-to-back games. They did that in a long time. 2-0, first time since 2012. We got the best graded tackles, right tackle, left tackle in the league, and Joe Alt and Rashawn Slater. Our defense is leading in a bunch of categories. Like, let me be happy about that. Let me be happy. So, again, leave me alone. I'm going to celebrate my win. So, speaking of the Chargers, let's go ahead and get into week 3. We got Steelers this week, and I like it. I think it's going to be a hard-fought game. I like the under in the game. I like us to win outright. So, if you're looking for bets or my takes on that, that's money line Chargers, under 35.5. I might alternate the line up to 37.5 because it did come down from there. But that's kind of what I like for that game, and I'll tell you why. Because I just don't believe that we've asked Justin Herbert to do much, and we've been able to win these games. J.K. Dobbins is running the ball. He has a history against Pittsburgh, and usually he's pretty good against them. Greg Roman is familiar with Pittsburgh, and I think that, he has some things that he can do. I think John Harbaugh will help out Jim Harbaugh a little bit in these games. I'm pretty sure Jim has watched his brother play against Pittsburgh a lot of times. I even seen a stat that says Chargers have not lost in Pittsburgh since 2009. So that's another thing going in our favor. And we come into this game as underdogs. So we're playing with house money. So I think all of that stuff is kind of putting us in a position to be able to come out and win this game. I think the Steelers have scored with 1 offensive touchdown throughout this season so far through 2 games, and they've won both games. I think they're going to have a step up this week. You played Bo Nix, a rookie quarterback, last week. You scored 16 points against the defense that is not supposed to be that good. And then you beat a Falcons team with Kirk Cousins playing his first game off the Achilles, as well as the defense was not in a good groove or anything like that. And I think you had a coaching advantage there with Arthur Smith just now coming from you guys and knowing that personnel, and you guys still couldn't score a touchdown. So I just think that stuff is in our favor. We have been scoring. I know we're not going to score as easily. We're not going to run the ball as easily, but I don't think they're just going to totally shut us down. And it's TJ Watt. I get it. They have a great defensive culture. I get that. But we have a good offensive line as well. And again, we haven't asked Herbert to do anything. Herbert hasn't hit his groove yet. And he is coming into the game with a minor ankle injury. They said it's nothing serious. He returned to practice. He should play. And I think he's going to play well. He's played well against the Steelers in the past. And I think he's going to play well in this game as well. And I think, we'll leave from this game at 3-0. And hopefully make some money in the at the end of it. Moving on to Browns and Giants. Not going to spend much on this game. I like the Browns laying the points, -5.5. I like them straight up. Just don't think Giants will be able to do anything against the defense. Giants are going to have to face a similar defense to what the Vikings put out there in week 1, and they couldn't move the ball against them. So I just think they're going to be unable to take advantage of any opportunities that they may have, even with maybe getting the ball from Deshaun Watson. I just don't know. I think Daniel Jones hasn't been awful, but the coaching up there is just a weird situation going on. They scored 3 touchdowns last week, didn't dress out a kicker, so you're going for 2 every time. You're letting the punter kick. You only end up with 18 points out of 3 touchdowns. It's just, it's kind of weird situation going on in New York right now. I don't think anybody's going to get fired just because of the ownership group, but, I think this is Daniel Jones' last go around. I think if they keep losing, which their schedule looks like they may, he may get benched for Drew Lock, and we'll see what happens there. But, yeah, I don't really want to spend a lot of time hammering the Giants because I have buddies that are Giants fans, and I don't have anything against them. But, yeah, Browns -5.5, I like it. I like them outright if you don't like the points. I really like this Bears +1.5 versus Colts. I think Bears are getting undervalued because of how bad they've looked offensively the first 2 games. But that defense is great. And so in the same way I talked about Pittsburgh not scoring offensive touchdowns, but their defense is winning the games, that's what's going on with the Bears. And they just, they could be 2-0 right now if they got anything out of the offense. But when you playing a team like the Texans, you have to score. So even though the defense did limit some things and, shut down some things, they couldn't score enough. And I don't think that's the same type of situation we have right here with the Colts. I'm really not sure what the Colts are doing just because they benched Jonathan Taylor last week. I thought it was going to be a lot more RPO going on into the season and running the ball with Richardson and Taylor and just leaning on that. And that offensive line was going to dominate at the line of scrimmage. And that has not been the case. Like, they're throwing the ball. Their average depth of target is pretty good, but some of the stuff is bad positioning. Anthony Richardson is kind of very erratic, just throwing the ball all over the field. Whereas I think Caleb Williams have struggled, but I think has room for improvement. He showed me some good things, and Anthony Richardson has shown me some good things as well. But Richardson is more athletic, and it's like, oh, it's impressive. Like, it just jumps off the screen. But it's the little things. Like, he's inaccurate. He makes bad decisions. He gets sped up really easily. He exits the pocket pretty quickly. So I think Caleb Williams has a little more of those things under control. Not as much as you would like him to early on as people expected, but I still think he's in a good spot here to bounce back. I don't think the Colts defense present the same type of challenges as the Titans or the Texans defense did. I think they're going to have some better play calling against the stunts. I know everybody watched that game. I know Colts watched film, so they're going to do those stunts. I think the Bears will be ready for that. The play calling will be a little different to get the ball out of his hands and get that to his playmakers. Keenan Allen is supposed to come back. I think it's going to be a lot of leaning on the run game in this one because the Colts have not defended the run, especially last week with Josh Jacobs. And they're splitting those carries up there. I think they ran the ball over 50 times last week. So it's going to be, I think I like the Bears in that one plus 1.5. And speaking of the Texans, I like the Texans minus 2.5 right here against the Vikings. I rock with the Vikings. I kind of want the Vikings to keep this up, but I believe it's going to be some kind of regression. Just seeing Darnold do this without Addison and Hawkinson in the game. And then, you have Justin Jefferson. I get that. But he had a great game last week exploiting the 49ers secondary. But they always play well against the 49ers for whatever reason. But I think you're going to see a little bit of regression here. Texans defense is going to be strong. They're healthy. They're coming into this game healthy. They will have a great run game. They will have a great pass game. Whereas the 49ers kind of, had to get rid of some of that with Debo and then McCaffrey not being available. And Purdy get into a situation having to throw a ball a lot. That's not where the 49ers would like to be. So I think this is a step up for the Vikings here. And I don't think that they'll be able to deploy the same type of defense that they have been. They can't really blitz as much because Stroud is really good in those situations. He know how to see things coming. So I think that's going to be a cat and mouse game, but I think I'll go with Stroud. Only reason I'm kind of on the fence about it is because it's in Minnesota, and I believe they have a great home field advantage. So that is going to be something to watch there. But again, I think some regression will happen. I think Texans take the game minus 2.5. If you don't like the points, I would go money line on that. Now, this game is probably my stay away for the week here. Well, one of my stay aways. I have two big stay aways, and this one is the first one. So Saints money line versus Eagles. I like the Saints money line for a couple reasons. So I'll start with those first. The home field advantage is a real thing in New Orleans. So I think that's number one. Number two is that they have been able to run the ball very well with Kamara and Williams. And Philly has not been able to stop the run in their first couple games. And they have given up a lot on the perimeter. And I just don't know where they changed that here. Like, that secondary has been getting cooked up all year. And again, and that's how they lost the game. Just giving up stuff, deep shots down the sidelines to Mooney, from Kurt to Mooney, and then just giving up that easy touchdown to London. And I just don't see them being able to stop this Saints offense. It's really rolling right now. So I think you have to consider the Saints right here in this spot. Now, the reason I want to stay away is because on the flip side of that is the Eagles. Now, the Eagles, they've been able to run the ball with Saquon. They've been able to run the ball with Hurts, which is good benefit for them. They've been able to, match points. Like in Green Bay and Atlanta, they was able to match points, and ultimately they kind of fell down at the end. Coaching let them down that last game, but I think they'll be able to score the ball. And I think you have to expect a little Saints regression here. I mean, they put up 40 plus points back to back, so they have over 90 points in the first two games. First time doing this in a long, long, long time. So I think you expect a little regression there. Eagles are kind of up against it. I think coaching that seat will get real hot if they lose this game. So that's why I kind of don't like it. But I will say this, and this is my last point with this game, is that the Saints run a lot of cover one. And usually Philly can kill that cover one with A.J. Brown. A.J. Brown is not playing. So you kind of offset that with Hurts running. But I just don't know if that'll be enough. Like, do you... And then they kept telling me they got Jahan Dotson to, offset some of that. I mean, he's not touching the ball. He's not getting the ball. So I just don't know. I think Hurts was decent in that last game. He was pretty good. But I just don't know. I just don't know if Hurts can go out there and win it on his own. I think you have to give the ball to Saquon a lot. You have to limit the offense. I think what Philly tries to do is the opposite of what Saints try to do on offense. So I just, stay away game for me. The game I like, though, Broncos 6.5 versus Buccaneers. I just think Bo Nick's first two starts was pretty rough. But, I mean, he had a pretty bad spot. You had to go to Seattle, and then you had the Steelers defense at home. And those are not two games you want to start out with. And the Bucs here is going to be a big step down. Their secondary is messed up. Their D-line is banged up in some spots. And then they also their defense, even when it's whole, is not as good as those first two that I mentioned. And I think he, has a decent game here. Sean Payton is, he is, aware of that NFC South. He has knowledge of those schemes and those teams down there. So I think that'll benefit for sure. And I think, Bucs gave up a lot to the Lions. They won the game, but the Lions kept getting into the red zone. Or in scoring position, and they just kind of faltered or lost the ball or couldn't put points on the board. So I think, here in this spot, I would take plus 6.5. I think Bucs win the game, but I think they keep it close. I like the over in it as well because, like I said, I think Bucs scored well, and I think the Broncos will be able to put up some points. They were able to put up 20-something points against the Seahawks. Think they'll be able to put up something similar in this game, as well as the Bucs going over that number as well, being able to clear that 39.5 number. So I really like the over in that game, but I like the 6.5 with the Broncos as well. Packers and Titans, I'm staying away, but if you want a side, I think Packers plus 2.5 is the side in Tennessee, but I'm going to stay away from it. Another stay away game for me is Panthers plus 6 versus Raiders. If I want to take a side, which I might sprinkle on it, but I think Panthers plus 6 is the side just because I think Andy Dalton, the line was 7, right? 7.5. And then Andy Dalton was announced as a starter and it dropped down to 5.5. So that's a lot of movement right there. And then also, I just don't think that the Raiders should be laying this many points against anybody. I know it's the Panthers, but I mean, they won the game at the end with Baltimore kind of shooting themselves in the foot. They wasn't really in the game in the second half versus the Chargers in week 1, and I just don't see them laying this many points. I think Andy Dalton is going to be better and improved, and I don't know if they'll be able to take advantage of the defense as well. Like it's clear. Antonio Pierce keeps saying, "I want to run the ball. I want to run the ball. I want to run the ball," even when they had Brock Bowers and Devontae Adams going crazy all over the field last week. He came to the press conference and said, we got to get back to running the ball. So I expect to see a lot of running the ball, a lot of that. Don't think the score will be too high. So I think the Panthers might be able to hang around if Dalton is anything better than Bryce, getting the ball to his receivers. And I think, you see a little positive regression. Panthers not going to not score all year. So I think, they'll get down there and start moving the ball. And we'll see what happens there. But again, probably staying away from it. I like Seahawks versus Miami over 40.5. I just think even with Tua out, Mike McDaniels has some extra time, extra rest to get Skylar Thompson ready. I think he's going to figure out ways to get those playmakers the ball into their hand early and often. And then the Seahawks, they didn't run the ball really last week with Kenneth Walker being out, and he's supposed to be out again. They just started throwing the ball in those 3 wide receiver sets. Noah Fant hasn't really gotten into the midst of things, but I think if he gets back and that offense keeps rolling like that, I can see this one potentially being a pretty high scoring one. With Geno throwing the ball, he threw the ball 44 times last week, so I think that is a good spot for that against a Miami defense that is not good. So I like the over 40.5 right there. And then I got two other games I like. I'm going to go through them really quickly here. We got Cardinals +3 versus the Lions. I always also like the over 50.5. I think what the Cardinals do best on defense, they try to force you to run the ball. And then once you start running the ball, they start to bring people up. And then that's when you pass the ball. Unfortunately for them, that's the Lions' philosophy. They run, and pass. But I don't know why, but the Lions have not been running the ball first. They've been pass first team. And I think that's because they're trying to go into the weaknesses of the teams that they play. Like, you clearly see that the Bucs secondary was hurt, so it was a bunch of pass stuff going on, and they lost the game. For the Rams, it was something similar, so they passed the ball a lot. When the game got into overtime, they started to run the ball, and you see they closed out the game. So I think they're kind of playing way too much into what the other team is doing as opposed to sticking with what their game plan is. And I think this week they get back to that. So I think they get the scoring up to 50.5. I don't see their defense has been pretty bad. The Lions' secondary hasn't been that much improved from last year. I think, Aiden Hutchinson is a great defensive end there coming off the edge. But I think, they can cause some trouble with them offensively. James Conner running that ball, and then you using those receivers to get the ball to them. Kyler Murray is a dynamic talent back there, athlete, just running around. It's hard to get him down. I can see them keeping this game close. I don't know if they win. It's in a dome, but I do like the points. But so if I take a side, I'll go Cardinals +3, and then I like the over of 50.5 all the way up to 51.5. I'll go there. Last game, Rams +7.5 versus Niners. If it stays at 7.5, I like the Rams. If it drops below that, I will just go Niners. I just think both teams are really banged up, but the Rams have played like this more often. Matt Stafford has played like this more often. So I think with him and McVay, they will figure something out. As opposed to Brock Purdy, we haven't really seen him without his weapons all the time. So we'll see how that goes. I think the Rams get some right tackle, left tackle help coming back this week. So I think that's going to be good. Rams are at home, and they're over 7-point underdogs, and it's a division game. So normally those don't go really well. And then historically, McVay is 52% against the spread. And, I think it's going to be a good game. These teams know each other really well. Again, it is a division game. I don't think the spread will be that high, or the game finish will be that high. So I like the Rams +7.5. It goes down to 7. I might fade it. But right now, 7.5, I like it. 3 games I'm not touching. Falcons and Chiefs. If you want to touch something in it, I go over 46.5. I think the Chiefs just going to have to throw the ball more with Pacheco being out. And then Bills money line versus Jazz. I like that, but still not touching it because Jazz are in a bounce back spot here. Bills haven't played since Thursday. Don't really know how how that's going to go. Dallas +1.5 versus Ravens. I just don't see Dallas losing another game at home like this, especially the way they lost last week. I think this is a bounce back spot for them. But Ravens also lost pretty badly, so this is a bounce back spot for them as well. But they are the ones on the road. They should be the better team, and we don't really know about Dallas's offense or defense right now. It looked good week 1, but the Browns' offensive line was so bad that we don't really know. Ravens, they're a couple plays away from being 2-0, so it's a game of inches. So I just think, Ravens could possibly win this, but if you want to get a little risky and have a good sweat, Dallas +1.5 would be good to take at home. But those are the bets that I have for the week. One time, just to recap, we got Chargers versus Steelers under 35.5. Browns -5.5 versus the Giants. Bears +1.5 versus Colts. Texans -2.5 versus the Vikings. Saints money line versus the Eagles. Broncos and Buccaneers over 39.5, as well as Broncos +6.5. We have Panthers +6 versus Raiders. Seahawks versus Miami over 40.5 game total. Cardinals +3 versus Lions, as well as the over in this game of 50.5 up to 51.5. Rams +7 versus Niners. And just 3 kind of stay away games. But what we look at Falcons versus Chiefs over 46.5. Bills money line versus Jags. And then also Dallas +1.5 versus the Ravens. Hope you guys enjoy the games this week. I hope you guys win some money. This has been Can't Be Explained, episode 3. Remember to like, comment, and subscribe. And I'll see you guys next week. Peace.
got what you want, got what you need. Say anything, I'm here to